Welcome to our exhibition. I'd like to tell you a bit about Villaviciosa's Jurassic Jet. It's unique among the world's natural treasures. People think jet has an intense black colour. The Spanish poet Juan Ramón Jiménez likened that black to the eyes of a donkey. But not everything that's that colour is jet. The glistening black beads seen in regional costumes were never ever made of jet. Those sparkling beads are made of black glass. Sometimes it seems that anything that is black and shiny and light may go by the name of jet. No end of black stuff goes on sale in shop windows that is not really jet at all. I mean, what you find in the fair booths and shop stalls that called jet, that's Georgian or Bulgarian, or cut jet, lignite jet, and so on. It's the oldest trick in the world. Give a common material a fancy name and you make it seem special so people will buy it. The Herkimer diamond is a clear example. Herkimer diamond is a cheap quartz material. Compare the stones in these two pictures. Can you tell which are quartz stones and which ones are diamonds? It's the same with jet and its simulants. You can't tell them apart by the way they look. Rough lignite and jet look very similar. As polished stones, they're both deep black and shiny. They have the same weight and they feel the same temperature. Only time will tell which material is stable. Jet is a unique geological rarity. 4 factors contribute to making jet precious. Firstly, all jet is formed in the Jurassic period. Secondly, all jet was formed from wood. Thirdly, all jet was formed in wet conditions. Fourthly, all jet has petroleum in. For a material to form as jet, all these 4 conditions must be met. The world was very different from today, when jet formed 180 million years ago, when the single landmass known as Pangaea split apart into Gondwana and Laurasia. The landscape and climate here were very different. There was no summer and winter. The weather was warm and dry constantly, and the area around Villaviciosa was a big marsh with shallow sheltered water. These unique conditions were perfect for the formation of precious jet. Two of the trees that gave shade to the dinosaurs grew here under these climate conditions, Brachioxylon and Agathoxylon asturiensis. These particular species of conifers went extinct with the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. They looked a bit like monkey puzzle pine trees. Have you tried counting growth rings in a tree trunk? They show what the weather was like in the past. The wide rings show us a good time for growing, when water and nutrients were abundant. The bands are narrower when growth was slower. We know from fossilized trees that growth was slow in the Jurassic climate. These trees produced a very tight timber. When Jurassic storms toppled trees, their trunks, carried by swollen rivers, are carried down to the deltas. The tree trunk slowly submerged in a salt marsh. The marsh underwater is oxygen-free, so the tree could be preserved there with all its vegetable structure. Oil that formed previously moved through the salt marsh mud, impregnating the tree trunks from surrounding sediment. The tracheid cells of the xylem absorb them. Hydrocarbons seal pores up, which makes the jet stable, and so you get the best quality jet while hydrocarbons remain in the timber. There are only 3 places worldwide where jet has formed as I have described. Whitby in Yorkshire, where jet was formed from Protopinaceae of the Brachioxylon genera. At Lycia in Turkey, they have a deposit in Araucaceae of the genus Agathoxylon type A. Here at Villaviciosa, jet formed in a type of Araucaceae that is known as Agathoxylon asturiensis. These trees in which jet formed went extinct 65 million years ago in the Jurassic. Almost everywhere jet's classification is poor. For the paleobotanist, jet is a log that has fossilized, unlike coal that can form from all parts of a vegetable, including roots, leaves, bark, even algae and spores. In geology, jet is perhydrogenated carbon that has undergone a metamorphism by the injection of liquid hydrocarbon. It comes in a category of its own. Jet is a very rare type of coal that must not be confused with lignite at all. As this figure shows, the 2 parameters that classify coals are carbon content shown on the horizontal axis and hydrogen content shown on the vertical axis. Lignite is low in carbon but relatively rich in hydrogen. Bituminous coals have more carbon than lignite. Anthracite coal has a high carbon content and progressively less hydrogen. Jet characteristically contains some carbon but has a lot of hydrogen. On this chart, jet falls outside the range of different types of coals. The vitrinite and gas components in coal that derive from lignin and cellulose serve to make coals unstable. Jet is not filled with gas, rather it's impregnated with oil, so unlike lignite, jet is stable. Because of jet's stability, in many archaeological discoveries, jet objects survive to the present day. The oldest beads yet known were found in Las Caldas cave outside Oviedo and date from about 19,000 years ago in the Upper Paleolithic. They were found in a burial context. It may have been thought that jet had magical properties. Jet was a symbol of social status. There have been various drilled trinket finds from Neolithic and megalithic times. The Romans were prolific jet workers. Many pieces of Roman jet occur all over the Iberian Peninsula. Jet is a fragile material, yet it can be worked with great craftsmanship. Bracelets, rings and figurines have come down to the present time. Excavations in various places have discovered beads from necklaces. These beads that feature a point and a circle date from the late Roman and Visigoth periods. They used a bow drill to draw out these circles. The craftsman turned the tool to get these peculiar figures carved onto the jet. Some people believe this motif stands for eyes and say this figure has protective properties. pilgrimage to Compostela on the Pilgrim's Way has been popular since the Middle Ages. Amulets and religious objects of all sorts are associated with El Camino. Its popularity saw the peak of jet carving workmanship. Many of the best jet carvers settled in Santiago de Compostela. When Queen Victoria was mourning Prince Albert, her famous mourning jewellery was jet. Consequently, demand for jet took off. The British bought lots of jet from Asturias as they depleted their own resources. They took 500 tons away from Gijón harbour on ships bound for Whitby. The British worked jet into objects of luxury, mourning brooches with woven hair in, and photos of the deceased in their memory. They made bespoke little curios like this book page marker, this watch chain, and this compass. Compared to its history of such activity, in the present day jet working is in decay. The Asturian jet mines are closed and abandoned. The mining permits have all expired, and all the places with jet deposits are located in protected areas. So foreign materials have taken over that are obtained more easily and are sold in the place of jet. The old mines are a maze of holes that follow the fossilized trunks, unlike coal. Each time the miners found a new one, the holes they opened changed direction. This type of mining is hazardous. It does not meet modern safety standards. Valuable jet pieces have been recovered for decades by working the old slag heaps over. The supply source of last resort is picking jet fragments from retreating cliffs that are dangerously unstable. Looking for jet in such locations is neither safe nor viable. Compare these pictures of jet from a mine and jet finds from old slag heaps and landslides. You can easily imagine how the source of the jet affects workshop production. These days it's almost impossible to get good quality jet at all. Good quality jet is now so hard to get that other materials that look pretty like it are brought in from Georgia and Bulgaria. Lignite is so plentiful and cheap it has almost taken over the market, labelled Asturian jet or natural jet. The general public just can't tell the difference, so they get away with it. Unless you're an expert, it's easy to fool you. Fake jet from other plants and periods are unstable. Over time they crack. Here an example of Cretaceous lignite from Old Trias. For lack of hydrocarbons has developed fractures. The cracking tells you this lignite from Teruel is actually an unstable material. The three samples you can see here have been polished by a rotary polisher the same way, for the same time, with equal intensity. You can see that the lignite samples have cracks in, while the genuine jet from the Asturian region is capable of withstanding stress and exhibits a lasting and mirror-like polish. In these samples from Turkey, you can see bands of stabilizing resin used to give consistency. The scratch test is used to identify minerals. When you scratch jet, what color do you get? Asturian Jet always gives a brown stripe, but so do algae-rich coals and lignite. However, the scratch test can tell Jet apart from black plastic simulants, quartz and glass. Why don't they open a new Jet mine? The Spanish Standards Agency lacks a full definition of Asturian Jet, and no quick and easy test can tell Asturian Jet from lignite material, so there is no way to certify that a piece of jet comes from an Asturian mine. Until a test can tell an imposter, there would be no point in the future obtaining a geographical protective indicator for jet that's extracted from any new mine. In any case, artisanal exploitation would be much more costly than importation. When you rub material derived from oil, it develops a charge of static that draws things to it like a magnet. They call such materials triboelectric. This works with jet as well as some plastics. Recently, the University of Santiago performed an experiment to show that lignite is not triboelectric. It's no surprise and nothing new that in old times Galician jet carvers knew that by rubbing they could show if a thing was made of jet or not. Our own workshop has carried out hundreds of tests to demonstrate the triboelectric test works. We want to repeat them scientifically to give the method undeniable validity. True jet is unique and it's scarce. It's at the heart of Asturian tradition. Villaviciosa's Jurassic Jet Association believes in making information available. This is an essential tool to establish true jet's true value. We want you to know how authentic the jet is that comes from the Jurassic here in Asturias. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your visit to our exhibition.